library friends. I'm Miss Connie from the Hopewell branch, and today we're going to talk about fractured fairy tales, specifically Rapunzel. So, a fractured fairy tale is a traditional fairy tale that has been rewritten with a twist. In order to know that it's rewritten with a twist, you kind of have to know the original story. So, we're going to watch a retelling of the Rapunzel story, and then we're going to talk about some fractured fairy tales. And at the end of the program, we're going to do a craft. So right now, I'd like you to watch our retelling of Rapunzel.
This is the story of Rapunzel. Once upon a time, a husband and wife lived happily in a cottage at the edge of a wood. But one day the wife fell ill. She could eat nothing and grew thinner and thinner. The only thing that could cure her, she believed, was a strange herb that grew in the beautiful garden next to their cottage. She begged her husband to find a way into the garden and steal some of this herb, which was called Rapunzel. Now, this garden belonged to a wicked witch who used it to grow herbs for her spells. One day she caught the husband creeping into her garden. When he told her what he had come for, she gave him some Rapunzel, but she made him promise to give her their firstborn child in return. The husband agreed, thinking the witch would soon forget the promise. He took the Rapunzel back to his wife, who felt better as soon as she had eaten it. A year later, a baby girl was born. But the witch did not forget, and she came and took her away. She told the couple they would be able to see their daughter in the garden behind their house. Over the years, they were able to watch her grow up into a beautiful child with long, fair hair. The witch called her Rapunzel after the plant her father had come to steal. When she was 12 years old, the witch decided to lock Rapunzel up in a high tower in case she tried to run away. The tower had no door or staircase, but Rapunzel was quite happy up there as she could sit at the window, watching the life of the forest and talking to the birds. Yet sometimes she would sigh, for she longed to be back in the beautiful garden where she could run and skip in the sunshine. Then she would sing to cheer herself up. Each day the witch came to see her, bringing fresh food. She would stand at the bottom of the tower and call out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your long hair." Rapunzel, whose long hair was braided, would twist it around one of the bars and drop it out of the window, and the witch would climb up it. When she left, Rapunzel would let down her golden hair again, and the witch would slide down to the ground. One day the king's son was riding through the forest when he heard Rapunzel singing. Mystified, he rode to the tower but could not see any door, so he did not understand how anyone could be there. He decided to stay and watch the tower and listen to the singing. After a while, the witch came along, and the prince watched her carefully. In his amazement, he saw her call out to Rapunzel, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your long hair," and a long braid of hair fell almost to the ground. The prince saw the witch climb up the hair and disappear through the window, and he made up his mind he would wait till she had gone and see if he could do the same. So after the witch had gone, he stood where the witch had been and called, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your long hair." And when the golden braid came tumbling down, he climbed up as the witch had done, and found to his astonishment the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. They talked for a long time, and then the prince left, promising to come again. Rapunzel looked forward to his visits, for she had been lonely. He told her all about the world outside her tower, and they fell deeply in love. One day Rapunzel said to the witch, "Why is it when you climb up my hair you're so heavy? The handsome prince who comes is much lighter than you." At this the witch flew into a rage and took Rapunzel out of the tower and led her into the forest to a lonely spot and told her she must stay there without food or shelter. The witch cut off Rapunzel's hair and then hurried back to the tower with the long braid. That evening when the prince came, he called out as usual, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your long hair." The witch, who had secured the braid of golden hair inside the window, threw it down. The prince climbed up eagerly, only to be confronted with the wicked witch. "Aha!" she cackled. "So you are the visitor who has been coming to see my little Rapunzel. I will make sure you won't see her again." And she tried to scratch his eyes out. The prince jumped out of the high window and was not killed, for he landed in a clump of thorny bushes. His face, however, was badly scratched and his eyes hurt so that he could not see, and he stumbled off into the forest. After several days of wandering and suffering, he heard a voice singing. He followed the sound, and as he drew closer, he realized he had found Rapunzel, who was singing while she worked to make a home for herself in the forest. He ran towards her, calling her name, and she came and kissed him. And as she did, his eyes were healed, and he could see again. The prince took Rapunzel to his father's palace, where he told his story. Rapunzel was reunited with her parents, who were overjoyed to see their daughter again, and a proclamation was made banning the witch from the kingdom. Then a grand wedding took place, and Rapunzel married the prince. And as for the witch, she was never seen again. The end.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed that retelling of the Rapunzel story. And now I'd like to talk to you about some of the materials that we have that you can take out in the library. So the first book that I wanted to show you was a very traditional kind of fancy version of Rapunzel. It's done by a famous artist. This is done by Paul O. Zielinski, and it won a Caldecott Award, so that's a really big deal, and it's a very beautiful version. Has some, let me just show you one of the pictures here, right? So it's really well done and very pretty. A little bit more maybe of a serious version of Rapunzel. And what I wanted to mention to you was there's a note in the back about the history of the Rapunzel story. And so it was included in Grimm's fairy tale, but it was based on an even older version of a German fairy tale, which was based on an older version of a French fairy tale, which was based on an older version of an Italian fairy tale. So this story is very, very old, and there are a lot of different versions, meaning it's not exactly always the same story. But this is a great book, and it has that very interesting history in the back if you're interested. There are more child-friendly for younger kids, lots of versions of Rapunzel. This one is the child's fairy tale book. That would have a lot of different stories in it. But then I did want to show you also some more what I would traditionally think of a fractured fairy tale being a funny twist. It's not always funny, but these are some funny ones that I think you would enjoy. So this book we have in the library, it is not, I didn't have a copy to bring home, so this one is a photocopy of what's in our catalog, but it is the cover. And I'm going to tell you a little summary here. In this version, a prince tries to get Rapunzel to throw down her hair so he can rescue her, but she mishears him and throws down random objects from her room instead. So funny, falling for Rapunzel. This one is Papunzel. And in this version, Papunzel is locked in a tower by a witch, but the Cocker Spaniel puppy and her family are determined to set things right in this twist on Rapunzel. So that looks cute. This is a book I just discovered. It's called Princesses on the Run. And in this version, Princess Antonia cannot be cured of her boredom. So despite pretty dresses and the coolest toys, she decides to run away. And with friends like Rapunzel, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, and Snow White, a big adventure ensues. I just read this and I really enjoyed it, so I would recommend that. This is an essential guide of princesses, and it has a lot of different Disney princesses, but it does include Disney's Tangled version of Rapunzel. And speaking of Tangled, we have this version, which is Rapunzel's amazing hair. And this is a rhyming book and has the great illustrations from one of the film's animators. Okay. Speaking of Tangled, we have Tangled the DVD, we have the Blu-ray, we have a Barbie version of Rapunzel if you're interested in that. We also have some leveled readers if you're a beginning reader. This is a level 1, you can tell up here, and it's called Happy Birthday Princess. We have a cake to bake, that's a level 2, so that means it's a little tiny bit harder. It has a bunch of different Disney princesses. This is an early chapter book, which means maybe you're starting to read chapters. That would be very exciting. And this is Blondie Rapunzel's Royal Pony. There are Rapunzel's popular with all ages, from babies to grown-ups. So I just wanted to show you a couple of middle grade readers because there are some fun variations of Rapunzel there too. This one is called Rapunzel. This one is for pretty young kids. It's grades K to 3. Okay. This one is the Lost Lagoon, and Rapunzel in the Lost Lagoon, and you might be able to read this if you're in grades 3 to 7. And we also have this book on Hoopla, which is our virtual branch. So if you have a device that you could read an ebook on, you can get this there. This is Straw into Gold. This is for grades 4 to 8. And this is 10 different fairy tales reimagined. But you can tell that it looks like it's Rapunzel that's on the cover because you can see the long braid. And then we have Grounded, The Adventures of Rapunzel. Okay. And I think I did not mention yet this printable activity sheet. So if you go to the kids page on our website, mcl.org, there's a link to printable activities, and you're going to look for the Rapunzel activity. And there are some additional suggestions here, some of the ones I mentioned and some other ones. Some books for you to consider taking out. And then I have some information that you can use to do the craft that we're going to do next. So that's a printable sheet, or you can look at it online, whatever you prefer. And next we are going to move on to the craft portion of our program. I hope you enjoyed the retelling of Rapunzel and the chance to see the different Rapunzel materials that we have in the library. And now we're going to do a craft so that you can have these Rapunzel characters at your home and you can retell the story for your family. So we're going to use the printable activity sheet that I showed you before. It's got a list of supplies and some templates that we can use to create our characters. So we're going to take a minute to talk about the supplies. Remember, this sheet can be found on our Kids Corner, which there's a little tab right on the main mcl.org webpage. And you're going to look for a link for printable activities. So you'll be able to find it there if you need an extra one or you misplace your sheet. Okay, so let's talk about the supplies. So the first thing that you're going to need is some kind of a stiff paper for your characters. It could be cardstock. Cardstock is stiff enough. If you don't have cardstock and you have to get creative, you could use a shirt box. Shirt box is really great because it's not hard to cut and it's plenty stiff to stand up. Piece of copy paper is going to be too thin, it will flop over. So I would recommend something like that. If you don't have that, you could use a cereal box or some kind of box from the kitchen, and just ask permission from your grown-up. If you take the box apart carefully, you can use the inside and color it to be whatever you want it to be. So that's two good options. Then you're going to want something to color your cardboard, because if you looked at the back of my characters, they're gray, kind of boring, can't tell one from the other. But if you look at the front, they're very different. So color makes a big difference. So you want to make sure you could use whatever you have at home. You could use washable markers. You could use colored pencils. You could use crayons. Anything that you have in your house. Now lately I've been using colored tissue paper. I really like colored tissue paper. The colors are bright. All you need is a little bit of glue. Glue stick works best, and a piece of tissue paper, and you smooth it out and turn it over and cut off the excess, and you get these really bright colors. So if you happen to have colored tissue paper at home, that works well. Let's check our supply list. We're also going to need some things to hold it together, like tape. Tape is great. Child-friendly glue or child-friendly glue stick, and a child-friendly scissors. If you don't have a child-friendly scissors, you need to ask your grown-up to cut things out for you, because I don't want anybody to get hurt at home doing this. Another thing you might think about would be if you wanted to hold your characters with something. So this is a little teeny tiny clothespin. So you could use that for your character, or you could tape a craft stick or a popsicle stick on the back and hold your character that way. You don't have to have anything, but it's an option. We're also going to need something for Rapunzel's hair, because that's a big part of the story, is that she's got this really long braid. So I used this gold curling ribbon, and I took 3 long pieces and I braided them. You could use ribbon, or you could use yarn, or maybe you can think of something else. It doesn't have to be what my suggestion is, but I'm just trying to offer you some ideas. So we're going to get to our characters now. So there are 5 characters. Do you remember who they are? First on the stage is the mom and dad. Then we have the witch. Then, of course, we have Rapunzel with her very long braid. And we also have the king's son, or I made him a crown. He's the prince. Okay, so this is our 5 characters. If you have these 5 characters, that's all you need. Okay? Now you'll note, we'll use mom and dad as an example here. Here are my shapes. Okay, so I did circle heads, same size circle. I did triangle arms and bodies. So it's the same triangle. And then for the moms, I used another triangle in a darker material, so that the sides of the triangle, I hope, look like arms. And for the dad, he just has this blue shirt, and then I used the rectangle for the legs. I cut out extra circles, and I made a wig shape for the girl and a wig shape for the boy. You don't have to have that. You could just color right onto the head. But that's how I did that. And that's pretty much it. I colored before I put them together. And so I taped one triangle onto another one. I taped the head onto the back. And that is it. So that's mom and dad. Again, we had the witch, so I put her in kind of darker colors and gave her black hair. I thought maybe that made her look more like a witch, but you can do it any way you want. Maybe you want to make a hat or add something else. I would love to see your creative ideas. For Rapunzel, again, I'd love to see what other ideas you have for the braid. And again, she's just the two triangles, a lighter triangle and a darker triangle, and she has a little wig there. And the prince, I just happen to have this little bit of extra goldy paper, but he doesn't even have to have a crown. However you want to do that. Okay, that's the 4 characters. Now, I also had a scene because I was sort of trying to make it look like it was a play. So I'll just tell you real quickly about the different things you could do for background. So a big part of the story, of course, is that the dad wants to take the lettuce or Rapunzel from the witch's garden. And so this is just another shirt box, and I lined it with the green tissue paper, and I made little tissue ball lettuce heads. So that's my lettuce. For a cottage, I did a cottage for the parents. That's my little cottage. I just used more rectangles for the windows. I just drew that door. There's no back to it, kind of like a play. You might see there's no real back to the set. And I made this out of a popcorn box. Okay, then probably, oh, I have a tree for the prince to hide behind. That's just a thin tree. And probably an important prop would be to have the tower. So I used this box. This is the inside of an oatmeal cream pie box. And that worked great because, again, it's that flexible material. It's stiff, but not too stiff. And so I turned it into my tower. You might have to have a grown-up cut this hole. It's not super hard, but it's a little bit tricky. So I don't want you to get hurt. So ask your grown-up to help you with that. And then if you turn the box inside out, look, it's kind of like a tower. I gave it a little lid. I just colored the top of a piece of cardboard and bent it a little bit so I could cover the top here. And that way, if I want to put Cinderella in the tower, I can put her in there. And that's that. So there are many options. This is just one option. I would love to see what you can do. I would also note that you could make so many different characters as we go through the summer. There are so many other fairy tales, and you could turn those shapes into other characters and tell lots of fairy tale stories. If you missed last week, Miss Brianna did a great program on The Princess and the Pea. And in the next coming weeks, we're going to have more fairy tale programs that we hope you will enjoy. So once again, if you do the project, we would love to see your work. Share a photo of your creation with us on social media by tagging the library at MCLSNJ. And we would love to see what you create. And I hope you had fun. And we hope to see you at another program soon. Bye.